I'm a graduate student in mathematical and statistical biology at the University of Alberta. What we're doing is we're looking for juvenile pink and chum salmon here. We're out here studying this because it's of great importance to the conservation of wild salmon, to understand the disease interactions between fish farms and wild salmon. The reports from Europe indicate that disease transmission from farms to wild salmon has had very negative effects on their wild salmon, and studies that have been carried out in British Columbia so far indicate that the same things are happening here. So we're trying to take a really close look at what's going on. Cow, cow, cope, cope. Cow, 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 cow. Moat, cope. Hemorrhaging anal fin, hemorrhaging dorsal fin, hemorrhaging gill plate. 3 copes. Cope, cow, cope.
57 and
So 24 sea lice in total on that fish.
After sampling thousands of fish, the team found that in some areas, up to 96% carried lethal loads of lice.
I think the even cycle's extinct, because this is worse than I've ever seen. Next summer, the summer of 2005, I don't think there's going to be a pink salmon in the Broughton. This scenario will just play over and over and over again until finally it's realized when you have too many farm fish on the migration routes, you lose your wild stocks. And it's really silly that we're being forced to reinvent this wheel because this has already been discovered elsewhere. I mean, if you want to farm salmon, there's ways of doing it that don't destroy the wild fish. You just have to separate the two. No cattle farmer would have his stocks right in the middle of the buffalo herd because of that different diseases that they get. It's just common sense. And so pathogens have been loosed. It's like opening Pandora's box. You start mixing animals together that used to have barriers. You overcrowd them, so now the pathogens can jump and they can mutate. I mean, they are the ones that are really benefiting from this, the viruses, the bacteria, and the parasites. And I think it's unwise to underestimate those little guys. They're very resourceful and they're benefiting enormously from our activities.
There are few who know the waters of the Broughton Archipelago more intimately than Billy Proctor. He's lived here nearly 70 years. As a longtime fisherman, Billy has spent many decades closely watching the cycles and patterns of salmon.
I've been here all my life. You got everything you want right here. Yeah, I take people on tours, like ecology tours up the inlet and the rivers and that, and they're just amazed at what I can show them with what's everyday life to me. When you see the fish coming back to the stream and all the critters feeding on them, it's pretty neat. And it makes me feel good to be able to do that. Take them and show them just the way things are out in what I call the real world. Wild salmon are coming back stronger every year, where there's no farms bothering them, like up on the Skeena and the Nass, they got good runs, and Columbia River, it's coming back. So it's too bad, really. I mean, why do they have farms in this area right where all the fish are migrating by? And if you read the recommendations, they're not supposed to put them on migration routes, and that's where they put them. If the wild salmon collapse on this coast, the whole ecosystem as we know it will collapse. The bears, the eagles, everything. Everything relies on salmon to come in to feed on. And we got to take a chance of wiping that out. My God, we got one of the richest coastlines in the world here. It's just so bizarre that a bunch of bureaucrats just don't give a damn. If they've seen all that in the natural state the way I have, they might have a different outlook on life. They wouldn't put a dollar value on everything. I don't like to be a pessimist, but I can't see it turning around, really, unless enough people stand up for what they think is right. Or we'll have a desert instead of a rich coastline. I sure as hell wouldn't want to see it. I'd like to think there's something for the kids coming up.
Look at the resources and the value it has to us. You know, I don't want people looking at this tape 20, 30 years from now saying, geez, we should have paid attention 20 years ago when this guy was making a statement. We need to deal with these issues now, before it's too late.
This is our last wild food source. This is the last animal that produces enough food in a wild, natural way. If the corporate experiment, the monoculture, the overcrowding, the use of pesticides and drugs, if that turns out not to work, wouldn't it be a good idea to have some food coming back to our homes every year without us?
Grandma to my father was the way it was done. Daddy to me, now me to my son. Down through the ages seemed a mighty good plan. Pass along the wisdom man to man. We're all one.
And that's what frightens me the most is when they're moving north. And if they don't pay attention to what's happening here, once they allow those farms into their territories, you aren't going to be able to remove them.
And I'm ready to go fishing now, and here it's just the middle of February right now, getting just about that now. In about 1 week's time, I'm going to be over on the west coast of the Queen Charlotte Islands, and I'm going to be over there and getting some of these nice big salmon. I treat them like gold, because they're going to go on the market, and a lot of them are going to go as far as New York, believe it or not, the fish out of my boat. It even goes as far as New York, and I'm pretty proud of that. And they're having the best of fish, I mean, they are. That's the best fish you can ever get is a wild salmon. No two ways about it. So I'm pretty proud to say that. I feel really good with what I'm doing.
People in the north here have pride. Pride of what we do and pride of what we have, you know. Like, who else has this neighborhood? Who has this in their backyards? You eat a wild salmon, you're always gonna live strong. You're always gonna be strong. You're gonna be eating right. You know what you're gonna be eating. You're not gonna be reading a recipe on you're not gonna be reading the ingredients on a farm fish, like, okay, what was the fish eating? You know, farm pellets, some kind of chemical, I don't know what it is, I can't pronounce it. You know, do you have any ingredients for a wild salmon? Natural. Think about it. Who wouldn't want a fresh sockeye out of this ocean, you know?
And my parents always said that one day there is going to be a shortage of other food supplies. Like, you know, you hear stories about mad cow disease and everything, and people are starting to get a little worried about eating cows, you know, beef. What else is there to eat, really, that's still clean? But salmon.
There's a little story involved in that too. After you eat the salmon that come out of those rivers, you put the bones and point them towards the sea, they'll come back again. They'll never leave that river. I always call this beautiful north coast the virgin country of British Columbia, and that's what we're trying to protect.
Since time immemorial. Like our old people have always said, you know, if you look after it, it'll look after you. And I believe that.